going to log into the tenant as super admin, Scott. I'm going to do a switch to admin, which takes me to the ISV admin dashboard. From here, we see applications. This is the pane of applications that we onboard. And when we do an add application, it shows a whole catalog of the applications that are available for onboarding. For the purpose of this demo, few applications has already been onboarded. The Salesforce application, which we can open and see. A typical SaaS application will have the following configuration panels. In the general settings, it's the general setting for the applications. The single sign-on will correspond to the SSO specific setting. On the right hand side, there are instructions which can be followed for configuration. On the account lifecycle tab, it will show you, it'll have the configurations required for the provisioning needs. Again, on the right hand side, the instructions are there for setting up the application. We can take a look at the policies. These are the configuration details that are required to connect to the endpoint for managing the same. And lastly, we have attribute mapping. On the left hand side, we see the verify attributes. On the right hand side, we see the target attribute, which in this case is Salesforce attributes, which can be necessarily transformed, or custom rules can be written for the same as well. We have account sync panel, where we can define the configurations for account sync, such as adoption and remediation policies. And lastly, we have entitlements, where we can specify the entitlements or set up the access request approval workflows. In this particular case, as we see, this is given as a birthright access. So for giving birthright access, support is available with verify. And this Salesforce currently is given as a birthright access. If we take a look at another application for on-prem target, here the SSO tab is not there. SSO is supported only for SaaS targets. For on-prem targets, it's only the lifecycle capability. From this application, there's another way of supporting the SSO for on-prem targets. So if we move on to the account lifecycle tab, similarly configurations are available. One of the key differences here is it will show an identity agent. This is the agent that I mentioned earlier, which helps us establishing the connectivity from SaaS to on-prem target, only requiring an outbound connectivity. And for this LDAP target, there is a find request access workflow which has been set, which we are going to cover in the coming flows. So after application, we can move on to app role management, which is the panel where all the application entitlements are listed. I can apply an application filter from here. This is the application that we were going to see. And these are the list of entitlements available for this application. I can click on one entitlement, which I have marked as requestable for the purpose of this demo. We can go to manage membership. We can go to groups. We can see all users can request this entitlement by request. We can select any particular group and make that requestable. For now, all users are made requestable, so this entitlement is requestable by anyone. Further, on the other tab of roles, there are two types of role, the regular or static role and the dynamic role. The dynamic role is the ABAC capability, where we can define a condition matching the user attributes, which will be evaluated, and the user will be given the membership for the same. Like for example, I can specify city as Pune, country India, and further and or condition can be added here. And I can create a role. The users will be evaluated against this dynamic set of attributes, and the membership will be given. I think right now there are no users for the same. I can review and publish from this panel. For the purpose of this demo, I have already created a dynamic role with some condition as department equal to marketing and job title equal to marketing analyst. There are few people who are already member of it. So Shirley is a user who have just onboarded for this demo, who has this criteria matching, and thus she is a member of the dynamic role. And we will see in the coming flows that using the dynamic role, entitlements can be given to the user. So this dynamic role is assigned to a ServiceNow application, with which Shirley will have the entitled to ServiceNow application by the virtue of the user profile attributes. And to verify, we can go to directory users and we can check up Shirley user. As we can see, the job department are marketing and marketing analyst respectively. So next we are going to log in as the end user Shirley. As I log in with the user onboarded, we can see this application entitlement which has been given is a birthright. These two are birthright access which has been given. ServiceNow is marked as a dynamic role and hence the attribute based access control is available for the user. Further to this, as an end user, I can go on and request for other entitlements. So for that, I'll have to go to my accesses, which will show the list of current accesses that the user owns. Further to this, I can do a request new, which will show me all the applications which are marked as requestable. I'm going to select the LDAP, which is the on-premise target, and going to do next. As we saw, the compliance officer was a requestable entitlement. I'm going to select this. Along with that, another one, developers. I'm going to do next. Add some justification and do a submit. And if I go to my request tab, the requests which have been raised are visible here. Clicking on this right hand side slider will show you the details from where I can send a reminder. I can see who the request is currently with. I can cancel the request. Now I'm going to log into, since this request is currently with the user manager, I'm going to log in as the user manager who is Chuck, and I'm going to approve this request. I'll navigate to my request. So these are the requests which are available. I am going to click on the request, view the details. I can choose to approve or reject this request. So I have to go to Task Manager, from where the request for approval will be visible here. So from here, I can select the request which I want to approve or reject. So suppose I want to approve, and I can choose to reject another request. So the request which is approved, that will go through for the fulfillment process, and we can verify if the request has been fulfilled. On the other window, I can show this is the user for which the account has been provisioned on the SDS system. So this fulfillment has gone through. Now, this Chuck is a user manager for a lot of other employees as well. So if I go to my organization, this shows the list of employees who are reporting to Chuck. And as a user manager, I can raise a request for others. I can go request access maybe for PostgreSQL this time. I can raise a request for basic access. And this is going to follow the access request approval workflow, and the same process will continue. The next is the access recertification. So for that, I'm going to go to Task Manager again. I'm going to navigate to access certification. So for the purpose of this demo, I have started a campaign, a quarterly campaign for certain entitlements, and I have made Chuck as reviewer. So in the certification campaigns, we have two personas, the campaign reviewer and the campaign supervisor. Campaign reviewer is accountable for reviewing the accesses, rejecting or approving those. Supervisor is responsible for maintaining the overall progress of the campaign and making sure the campaign is completing at the schedule instances, sending reminders to the reviewers, or making sure the entitlement requests are assigned with the right set of reviewers who can take decisions on the same. So currently, Chuck is a reviewer persona with which I'm going to go to this tab, which will show all the user entitlements which are available with Chuck for taking action on. I can click on this, which will show me the details of the entitlement which has to be reviewed. I can either take a decision of approving or rejecting, or I can do a redirect if I don't know who the correct person, if I'm not the correct person for taking the decision. I can either redirect it to the person whom I know who is supposed to take a decision, or I can redirect to the campaign supervisor, who can then take a decision and redirect it to the correct person. I'm going to approve certain entitlement, and I can take a decision if I want to approve right away or at the end of the campaign. I can reject certain requests. So as a reviewer, these many actions can be performed. On the left hand side, there are filters with which I can further trim down, or I can further filter down the requests which are visible for me. Next, I can navigate to my accesses, and there is a delegate flow. So the reviewer has an option of delegating the role to someone else if there is a planned leave, for example. So I can still search, and I can search for the user whom I want to delegate this role to for a specified period. And that particular person will be able to take the review decisions on my behalf during the specified period. So that's the delegate flow. The same delegate flow is available for both the supervisor and the reviewer persona. Now, moving back to the admin dashboard, whereby we can see the configurations for the certification campaign. I'll move on to the ISV admin dashboard. So under applications, access certification. So this is the campaign that we just took actions on. This is the campaign which is ongoing. If you take a look at the configuration option for create campaign, where is the new keyboard? So while starting a campaign, the campaign type can be selected as user entitlement, group entitlement, or accounts. So let me start a campaign type of group entitlement, a user entitlement, with a priority of high. The next, I can select the applications for which I want to run this campaign for. I can select a bunch of applications. And further to this, there are options of including or excluding certain users or groups. So if I want to have this campaign running for a set of users, I can whitelist those. Or if I want to exclude certain users from this campaign, I can exclude those as well. Moving on is the reviewer setting, whom I want the reviewer to be, either the user manager or a specific user, and what the reviewer decision action should be. Either just log it for compliance report perspective, or I want to let the reviewer decide when to enforce that decision, or at the end of the end of the campaign, or immediately. All these configuration options are possible. The next is the supervisor setting. I can set someone as a campaign supervisor and allow whether redirection of the re- certification request is possible to the campaign supervisor, who can then take a decision who is supposed to act on them. This is a schedule, whether I want this campaign to be one time or I want this to be a schedule one, repeating every quarterly, half yearly, annually, whatever the requirement is. I can also set the duration of the campaign. The next option is the reminder settings. So when do I want to send a reminder mail to the reviewers, and what should be the closing action, whether approve all, reject all, or take no action. So these are the options available for the certification campaign. We have a report for the certification campaign as well. So if I go to campaign activity report, and let's search for the campaign that we were just acting upon. So these are the decisions which have been taken, which are shown under the reviewer activity. Appropriate filter and the time range filters are available. And the second tab shows a management activity, which shows the management activities done during that period, which are traced as an audit record. So on the reporting panel, we have few other types of report like the user compliance. So this report will show all the accounts and their compliance status for the same, along with the user details. So this report is mainly used by the compliance officer for checking the compliance status. This report is configurable, whereby I can choose the user and the account attributes which I want to include or exclude as a report. Moving on to the next report, we have the user entitlement report, which shows the list of the user entitlements for the application, for the selected application. And similar to compliance report, this user is also configurable for the user and entitlement attributes, which I can choose. And this shows the details like what the entitlement type is, how the entitlement assignment was done. Was it a direct? Was it via a group, or was it a requestable entitlement? The avenue with which the entitlement was assigned to the user. All those details are shown here. So that's pretty much it about this report. Then moving on further, we have under applications the provisioning results, which shows the results of the provisioning action, the fulfillment action. Like for example, earlier in our demo, when we had raised requests for Shirley, these are the records which show success for Shirley. And this was the rejection record for Jose when the certification campaign request was, the certification campaign decision was taken. And similar to this, we have filters here, whereby we can filter based on operation and status. And similar to the provisioning results, we have account synchronization report, which shows the account sync history. Clicking on this will show the details on the right hand side, and with the appropriate filters available as well. That's it for the IJ demo. Over to Nilesh.